Welcome to Pet Sitter Confessional. Today, we're brought to you by Time to Pet and the Peaceful Pet Music, Calm Music for Pets YouTube channel. Are you prepared for an emergency? Not just an emergency in your business or a natural disaster, but for something that happens to you personally. Today, we're super excited to have Amy Sparrow, owner of Furkid Sitting and Services, and also president of the National Association of Professional Pet Sitters. Amy joins us to talk about her experience of having a personal emergency and how she had to adapt and change her business to overcome that. She walks us through the importance of having a business plan to have something to compare to and why you should build a network of community and support today and not wait. Let's get started.
Like you said, I own actually Furkid Sitting and Services. I'm here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I started my business in 2013. After, like most of us, we don't grow up doing pet sitting. We kind of started as a second career, and I kind of got maxed out after 18 years in the insurance and legal field and needed something that wasn't so stressful. So I was kind of on a break from that business and started started a pet sitting business. And, you know, that the wording of you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. And that is true for me. That's what I do now. I do pet sitting.
Well, and you've been doing it for coming up on 10 years, right? This 10-year
Yes.
anniversary with that. That's a huge accomplishment. Did you ever think that, when you started 10 years ago, what were you thinking that your business would look like for you?
I do. I kind of do, plans. I think I'll constantly think about what I'm going to do in the future for it. And I always thought, I would be successful if I can pay my bills and have some savings. And so, each year I kind of do a business plan in the beginning of the year, and I write my goals down. And that, as long as I was growing my business pretty good and have my good clients, that was my goal, is having good clients. That and having nice clients. I'm very picky on who I have as my clients. That was how I was. That was how I was going to be happy, and because I didn't want to be stressed out. That was my goal, not being stressed out. I did that. I was stressed out. I was maxed out, and I wanted to be happy. And so that's what I wanted.
And that's huge. A lot of people, when they talk about what does success look like, they think a lot of the financial aspects of it. They think about being able to have money, pay my bills. I think back to when Megan and I first started, and we just had little goals of okay, if this can cover our insurance, or if this can cover our gas, or if this can cover our groceries, and kind of grows and expands. But then layering on top of that, going, well, actually, there's a personal aspect to this as well of I want to work with nice people. I love how you said that, Amy, of I want to work with good people who respect me, who enjoy what I do and see the value in it. And that we can add that as a measure of success as we look at the clients that we're serving.
When I get a phone call, I answer the phone, and it's a new client or potential client, I should say, and I answer the phone, and the first thing they say is, "I need you to." Automatically not a client.
Oh.
I'm like, when I say I'm picky, I'm picky. They could say, "I need you to take a check for $1 million." I don't care. You're rude to me. It's telling you how you're going to treat somebody. And right off the bat, it's a relationship that we're going to have. I'm going to be in your house, or, my sitters are going to be in your house, and we're taking care of your house. We're taking care of your babies. If you're not going to treat us with some respect, just even calling, then I don't want you as a client. So I'm very picky on even how you're going to call and ask about my service. Oh. So that right off, when I tell you I'm picky on who I take in as a client, I'm very picky.
That's really picky, but it's a reminder that I think when we hire staff, like the interview starts before the interview starts, but same thing with our
Right.
clients too. The whole process leading up to that meet and greet is part of the interview process for whether you will take them on as a client, and
Yeah.
to remind yourself, if they're not treating me well now, how are they going to treat me later? And obviously, I do think that there is some. We have to understand. Sometimes people call us stressed, anxious. They're freaked out. There's other things going on. So there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle to put together. But immediately going, okay, is this how this person's going to view me, and how this is going to start? Because starting on the right foot is what you want, right?
Yeah. It's a red flag from the beginning. And by the time we're even doing the meet and greet, I pretty much know whether or not you're going to be a client. So,
well, I know that's a question a lot of people have of going, where do I sell the client, right? Am I selling them before the meet and greet? Am I selling them on my service at the meet and greet? And I really think it's important to view the meet and greet as like, if you're at the meet and greet and you're still unsure, like there may be some other steps that you need to put in before you get to that point.
oh, they're selling me. It's the opposite for me. I tell them, we'll let you know if we're taking you on. For me, it's a different for me. I'm a referral basis pretty much only now.
Okay.
It's we're our services that we have now. We're busy. We're a busy industry, and we should be picking and choosing our clients the way we are. We're a busy industry.
Yeah, we're a service industry that gets to be picky, that can be picky, right? We don't have to serve, like we can decide who we want to serve in that context of going, that kind of behavior is not allowed here. That kind of language, or that kind of how you're going to treat me or my staff, like that is not okay. And sure, I know in the beginning, or there may be slow times in your business where you're like, oh my gosh, like I'll just take them. I'll just take them so that I can have that. But it's the going, do you want this kind of person for the next 10 years or however long?
You learn. Yeah. And you don't have to fire clients then. The more you learn, and you learn how you want to be treated or don't want to be treated, you learn, okay, that will be a good client. We had a webinar one time for naps, and we had a lady who kind of gave us a sheet on like a point system. And these are the ways that you wanted, these are the ideal clients on how to do points. It was a really, really good webinar. I wish I could remember that lady's name. I have it flagged because I like how she kind of, did these are the ways that you want to be treated. These are good clients to have. And I love that thinking. These are the kind of like the points. These are the kind of clients. So when I talk to potential clients and I hear their ways of saying, if they're last minute people, that kind of stuff, I don't really like that, but if they're saying I'm booking something for June, July, I need a pet sitter. Okay. They plan well, if they're being referred by a really good client, then I'll take them, those kind of things. Cause that if they're friends with somebody who's a good client, then you kind of know that they're going to treat you right, or your pet sitter's right. So, things like that, those are kind of ideal clients that you want. If you're going to, when I first started, I was taking everybody. Well, then I was treated like crap. And I was like, okay, I don't like this. This is not what I want. And so you learn, and I've learned, it's been 10 years. I learned hard. I don't fire clients anymore because those are not the clients that I have.
Wow. Yeah. You don't, because they kind of self-select or self-sort out through the process, and you can so Amy, when you have that conversation with somebody, how do you let them know, okay, this isn't going to work out between us? Because that's, as a people pleaser, telling people no, like that's one of like, oh, I just feel the dread right now, even thinking about it.
I'm a blunt person. It was, I said, you know what, on this last, I don't have any more. I got rid of them. Honestly, I said, we can't make you happy. We can't make you happy. You're not treating us well. You're going to have to find another sitter. I don't make up stories. I don't say we're too busy. I don't say, I'm blunt. I'm a blunt person. I'm not going to lie to somebody. It's just not right to lie to somebody. I said, you're gonna need to find another sitter. We're not making you happy, and you're not treating us well. I'm an honest person. You're gonna get you're gonna get me. You're gonna get an honest person with me.
And I think that's really important because when we do say things like, oh, just say you're not busy or say you're fully booked, they're going to continue to come back to you. We've had that. We tried that in the very beginning of saying playing the we're booked card or we're full. They just continue to come back to you. And every time you have to say, okay, no, it's not. No, I'm booked. No, you think they wouldn't come back to you, but they will 100% of the time. And then you're not actually doing anything. And importantly, you're pushing a bad behavior off on somebody else without telling the client that it's unacceptable.
Right.
They need to know that how they're acting and behaving and the demands and their demeanor is not acceptable in this industry. And in hopes that, okay, well, wow, I got shut off from this person because of my tone and how I was acting, how I was treating them. I should probably be a bit nicer to the next person I encounter.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you came out of what you said 18 years in the legal and the insurance industry. How did you know? You said there was a kind of a transition period with there. How did you know when it was time to go full time into pet sitting, or did you just jump in with both feet?
I had a break from that. I was on a break from that job in between. Actually, I literally was on a break. I could have gone back to that business or to that company. And I was talking to my therapist. I see a therapist every other week, and I was talking to my therapist, and I volunteer at a cat rescue. And I also, like most of us, was pet sitting for friends. And she's like, you know what? When you take care of animals, you decompress. It's a very relaxing thing. Why don't you do pet sitting? And in talking with her about that, I was like, you know what? That's a great idea. And so I started researching right away. I just started researching about pet sitting. And actually, during that time, while I was working in that career, I needed a pet sitter. And I hired what was supposed to be a professional pet sitter. And they did a horrible job for me. They didn't tell me whether or not they were at my house. They didn't tell me how my animals were doing. I find out later they lost my key and broke into my house to take care of my pets. So when I tell you it was a horrible experience, it was a horrible experience. It was like what not to do as a pet sitter. And so I started researching it and found naps and was like, okay, that I want to join naps. I joined naps and learned a lot about pet sitting. And so I opened up my business at that time and left that job, left that career, and pretty much transitioned right into opening up a pet sitting business. I went to, I don't know if you know what SCORE is. It's a small business, nonprofit organization where you can meet with business people and they will kind of give you guidance and information. And so most cities have a SCORE chapter, and it's also online. You can go to score.org and they kind of give you information, and they have webinars also for business, small businesses. And so I did that as well. I just did what my business mind did, and I just jumped in and learned business. And I also met with pet sitters through naps, and I said, okay, tell me about pet sitting. And they helped me. Pet sitters helped me. I said, what did you do? What do you do? What did you learn? What were the mistakes you made? What would you do again? What wouldn't you do again? And that's how I started my business. I went on to the NAPS accessory, the toolkits, all the forms. I downloaded all the forms, and that's how I started. Oh. And being a volunteer at a cat rescue, I had I knew people already. So I said, hey, I'm doing pet sitting, and I had clients built in from that. So I was lucky in that the connections that I had.
Yeah, and having that built-in network, right? And I think that's where many of us turn initially, is going, okay,
Right.
who do I know, right? We start really small. Where's my little circle around me? Do they know,
Exactly.
right? And then you do branch and you grow from there. And I did want to touch back on, Amy, how you started by saying that you were talking with your therapist, and they had said just how important pet sitting was to you and how they
Right.
noticed this change. And I think it's really important to note that, and why it's important to set up boundaries, to be picky about the clients that we have, to be very protective of this, because
Mhm.
we all have that connection with animals. We love this for a reason. And I think a lot of times we look up and we go, I didn't sign up for this. Right?
Right.
I didn't sign up for this kind of business, to have this kind of life, to have this kind of stress, to have this kind of whatever it is going on, and going, how do I reclaim that joy a little bit more? How do I get back to where I started, and that optimism, or that, I love that word, being able to decompress. I hear that a lot from people, of going, pets help me,
Right.
but whenever my business is running me, I can't experience that, right? I can't be in the moment the way I want to be.
Oh yeah, and I left that industry. I left that craziness. I didn't want to bring it to where I was, in my happy place. I didn't feel like I was working doing pet sitting,
Yeah.
so why would I get stressed out dealing with people? I didn't want that in my world. So yeah, um and I love animals. I love taking care of them. When I walk into a client's home, it's you know, I that was my happy place. So
Mm.
it's the best thing on earth that I still see that therapist, and that's all we talk about is animals. So, it's the best thing on earth.
Well, and so this is just a good PSA reminder that if you need to talk to somebody, go out
Yep.
and find somebody to talk to, and have that, and that it doesn't matter where you are in your life. Sometimes just having somebody to talk to is a really important part, whether it is a therapist or friend or family. That's incredibly important. And even if you're feeling like, oh, things are going well, I don't need that, or I don't feel like why. Still having that connection is super important.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Have you heard of Time to Pet? Susan, the pet gal, has this to say.
Time to Pet has helped us grow exponentially. We believe the platform's features make us by far more professional than other companies who use conventional dashboards. They are the software gurus, constantly developing and improving the platform based on user feedback. This decision was a good one.
If you're looking for new pet sitting software, give Time to Pet a try. Listeners of our show can save 50% off your first 3 months by visiting timetopet.com/confessional. You were running your business in 2013, and I know, just from talking with you personally, Amy, you had a pretty big medical scare come up while
Right.
running your business, and I wanted you to talk about that, and kind of how that impacted you in your business.
Yeah. So I something I always do, and I think it's very important for small business owners. I was a sole, it was just me doing my business. Every year, what I do is I do a business plan. In my business plan, I kind of do a what I want in I do a preparation. I do a something that, hey, if something happened to me, because we're the majority of us are sole business owners. It's just us. I always do a what happens. We're on the road all the time. I always worried about getting into a car accident and what would happen if I got into a car accident, because we're on the road all the time. So I always worried about what if I got into a car accident. So I started taking some of the people from my rescue world and bring them to clients' homes. So I'd always let my client know, hey, I'm going to have another sitter with me, so that they would, just let them know, hey, there's going to be somebody with me. And I would have my backups, I'd call them, with me every, couple weekends. They would come with me. And so they would know what I do and how I do it. And I did that for a few years, and they would kind of get an idea. They didn't do professional pet sitting, but they got an idea of how I did my pet sitting.
Mm.
So because I thought I was going to be in a car accident. That was my plan, be in a car accident. One day, I'm at a client's house. I'm at a dog named Minnie. She's a mini bull terrier. Hanging out with Minnie, I get a horrible headache. So I'm like, you know what, Minnie, let's go take a nap. I wake up, I can't see. And I'm like, well, that's not good. I probably have a migraine because my auras for migraines are usually vision. So I'm like, this sucks. This sucks. And so I have a few clients left to go see. I try to go drive out to my next client. I still can't see well. So I pull over and I call a friend, a neighbor, and I ask her to come pick me up. We go to see the next few clients. She comes in and helps me with that. And then I ask her to drop me off at the ER. Go to the ER to get an IV because usually that's all it takes for a migraine. And they come in and they say, you didn't have a migraine, you had a stroke. And I was like, well, that wasn't on my plan of, emergencies. I was supposed to have an accident. And so, but that, like I said, my plan, my emergency plan was an accident because we're on the road all the time. So I call my backup sitters, and I call them and I said, look, I'm in the hospital. I need to see if one of y'all can at least, come and take care of my other clients that I have. Thankfully, no questions asked. They dropped everything. They came to the hospital, grabbed my keys, went and took care of the pets. My plan worked great on that. That was my plan. They took care of my pets. I took care of me. I could then say, okay, what am I going to do now? And I also called another pet sitter that I have never met, but I knew that they were in the area. It wasn't the person who I took care of my pet in prior years, trust me. That person didn't last long in the industry. But it was somebody else that I knew about, and they took care of new clients that I had set up. So they took care of new clients, and I was able to take care of me until I could figure out what I was going to do. So that is how I was able to keep my business going in that time frame of this, whatever I was going to deal with after this stroke that I had. So, which was fun. And I know what caused it. If I'm going to do a PSA right now, I had, for women who, have to take hormones, estrogen. I took estrogen for years. And that's caused my stroke. So I'm doing a PSA for women. Don't take estrogen. Because it turns out it causes a lot of strokes.
So when you were doing your business review or your business plan, right? I think of a business plan sometimes as a one and done thing. What you added an emergency, contingency plan in that. What does that look like? How do you sit down and actually write that out? Do you just have a call person if this is like an if-then statement of if this happens, then call this person, or what's a good structure for us to have in place for that?
Well, so you got to look at what kind of business you have. I, at the time, like I said, was just me. I look at it as I do it kind of two ways. I have my personal one. It was just, at the time, it was just me. And I was worried about who's going to take care of my pets in the event of me not being able to go there. So that's what I was worried about. We also here in Louisiana have natural disasters. So I was worried about, hey, we get a natural disaster. It's just me. I'm not going to be able to get to all these clients in the event of a hurricane, or we had a really bad flood here a few years ago. I was not able to get to clients' homes with this flood. So I look at those kind of things, and I think about contingency plans, those kind of things. So when I do my initial setup with clients, I get emergency clients. Emergency contact information from clients. I get neighbor information, that kind of thing. You have to talk with your clients, get their neighbor information, get their people who aren't traveling with them, and then that kind of thing. Because all the information, you have to talk with these clients, not just email, literally on the phone, call them, because they need to be aware. They need to be aware. If something happens to you, I was on the phone in the hospital calling them and saying, look, I'm in the hospital. You're going to have somebody different come to your house. They're used to me. You're going to have somebody different coming into your house, just so you know. That was the biggest thing. Letting your clients know that something different was going on. My plan every year, I did a yearly plan first. In January, I said, okay, these are my goals. Also, making sure my backups, I had that. I also called clients. I called the ones that I haven't seen in years. All right, get them off my list, so I didn't have to worry about so many clients. I thought about, I also got with the other thing, emergency-wise, I have communication with local boarding and local vets, so that if something happened in one of my clients' homes and I had to get those animals out, where can I put them in an emergency? So I have contacts with a boarding place and also with a vet's office. I have, plans with them. So you got to think of those kind of things. Because when an emergency happens, you don't want to start worrying about that. What am I going to do with these animals? I do have a background with a fire department. I have a fire department background.
Yeah.
So I used to live out in a rural area, and one day a brush fire was coming towards my house actually, and I was waiting forever for the fire department to come. They finally show up, and they needed help putting out this fire. There's only one person showing up with a fire truck, and then I find out, well, it's a volunteer fire department. You get what So then I joined the fire department because I was like, okay, if you need a fire put out, you got to join to put it out. That's how I got into the disaster preparedness and emergency. So, did that for 7 years until I moved to Baton Rouge.
You do learn from your experiences, and I think when we sit down to think about kind of emergency preparedness just for ourselves, I love how you started talking about, like, okay, personally, just broadly, what happens if I can't show up? Right? I think that's a great place to start. Not, sure, you were thinking it's going to be a car accident, right, but the stroke happened. But the same result the result was the same. You were unable to show up. And I think that's, you can start broadly like that and then narrow down specifically of, okay, now in this scenario, and that grows over time. And the first time that you do one of these, it's not going to be this big, massive, multi-page document with branching, whatever. It's going to be very simplistically, I can't show up. Then what do I do? How do I approach that so that you can start having that and letting them know, right? Like the part of the contingency plans, the emergency plans is not just what do I do, but what's the flow of communication of going, right. That's important too in that process.
And so I found when I called my clients and said, hey, I'm in the hospital, I have some people going to your house. The first thing they did was they worried about me. And then they said, hey, don't worry about it. I'll have so-and-so take care of my pets. And then you take care of you. That was the first thing they did. I had one person who said, well, what are you going to do? That person's not a client anymore. Yeah. That was a new person. Yeah. But so you find that the people that you take care of will take care of you. It just shows you the relationship you have with your clients. It really shows the relationship, because the first thing I was doing is telling them, your pets are going to be fine. This is what the situation is right now. But like I said, I had that plan in place. I was telling them, look, I have backups. They're going to be going to your house. It's not going to be me. Because most of my clients have cameras, so they're going to know it wasn't me at their house. And they're going to know on the journal, it wasn't me on the journal. But, they're going to probably want to know why. But I was going to tell them, look, this is the deal. This is what's going on. Same thing with disaster preparedness. I do the same thing during hurricanes. I call them ahead of time saying, look, hurricane's coming. We're doing your hurricane prep. We do what's called hurricane prep so that there's not going to be something flying into a window or something. Most of the time, I'll call them and saying, hey, the hurricane's coming. They're saying, hey, we're coming back early. Don't worry about it. Or we're not leaving. Don't worry about it. We're changing our plans. So there's a relationship, in that where they're going to change it to where, or for instance, we can't get to their house because of the disaster. We've already discussed that ahead of time, saying, hey, the neighbor's going to take care of the animal in the event we can't get there. We plan that ahead of time. We have all these plans ahead of time. The what if. If there's that thing on the computer that says, if this, then that.
Yeah.
You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
So we have that ahead of time. We're like, okay, if we can't get there, then the neighbor can do it. If this, then that. So we have those thoughts ahead of time, if we can't do it. Because sometimes it could take a couple days before we can get to a house because of a hurricane, because of trees down and stuff like that. We have the neighbors that are keeping an eye out saying, yeah, you're not going to be able to get to our neighborhood. We'll take care of them. Don't worry about it. The clients will say, or if a house is damaged, we worry about the animals if a house is damaged. So then we have that backup plan of taking the animal out, putting them in boarding. We have all these plans ahead of time that you have to think about. You might not be able to write it down. You can't write it down, some of these things, but you have to think about it.
You do. And it starts with little things, right? Like if you're like right now on your phone, do you have the contacts for the emergency 24/7 vet in your phone right now? Because the last thing you want to be doing when you ever have a dog that is completely, motionless or hemorrhaging blood is Googling emergency vet near me, right? That's the wrong time to do that. Now, you still may have to, or if you're doing it at that time, at least you're doing it. But the time to prepare for that is just have that emergency contact there. Save it as a favorite. Yes, it's going to be right next to mom and granddad, but the emergency vet is going to be a favorite in your contacts, so you know immediately where it is. And it's those kind of, what can I do now to make the time later less stressful on me? Because in the moment, I'm going to be running on adrenaline. I'm going to be moving a mile a minute. I'm going to have a lot on my plate. The last thing I want to do is have to Google where the address is or anything along those lines. And then communicating to clients. I encounter this a lot in our business of going, okay, do I need to tell the clients that we changed this? Or do I need to tell the clients that we're doing this? And the answer is always yes. They most of the time, they don't care. But it's on us to let them know there has been a change to the plans. And not just that there is a change, but here's what we're doing about it. Right? That is essential in an emergency context, whether it's for you personally or for the business. Amy, you talked about being worried about being in a car accident. I was rear-ended a week ago on the way into a visit. I was 3 minutes away from the visit. So beyond being really frustrated, it was just, I've got to notify people, get ETAs, start circulating my backups to start coming in behind me and just orchestrate this. And every single client said, don't worry about it. We're so. Are you okay? Yep. Is this going to be fine? It does. You can show up in 4 hours. We don't care. We want to make sure that you're okay. Exactly. And that was while I was sitting on the road, frustrated and angry. It was like, okay, well, everything's going to be okay, right? We're gonna. This is going to be fine.
I'll tell you a story. I have really good clients. One of my clients started paying my mortgage. I mean, really, when you start, we are so worried about our clients and our pets that we take care of. They really worry about us, and they're like, don't worry. And we are so worried about everybody else. And then they turn around and do those kind of things. So when I say, you pick your clients, you get your good clients, and that is one thing that I was like, okay, I did good in my business when I did that. And they started calling me and, are you okay? And so she's like, don't worry about it. don't worry about your mortgage. Let me worry about that for you.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, one less thing for me to worry about.
So you're in the hospital in bed, and you're coming to terms, I'm sure, with the stroke and what that means, and you've solved all the immediate problems because all the immediate visits are getting taken care of. When did you start looking down 1 week, a month, 2 years down the line and start going, okay, now what does my business look like?
So I do a 5 and 10 year plan. My business, working 18 years in the business world, we always did a 5 and 10 year plan, that kind of thing. And I had always done that in my business. So my 5-year plan was to hire staff. And literally, because of the way things were, I hired ICs, and one of the people that I did was one of those people who came and started doing pet sitting right away. And I liked that. And so I contracted with her pretty much right away. She, was one of those people that just jumped right in. Because of that 5-year plan, I went overnight. I went from 1 year to 5-year overnight. I just jumped right into that plan because that was a plan. In 5 years, I would grow. It was a smart thing for me to do because it had a parameter. It set my goals and my parameters. Like, okay, I'm going to grow and have people to help me, and so that's set that. Again, like I said, I had a backup plan. Well, that was a future plan. And so my future plan just went into place rather fast. I did have, because I couldn't see to drive or anything like that, I had them, I was able to drive to go see certain clients. I met with clients and said, look, I'm not going to be able to see your pets, but I have some people that are. And so they said, as long as you trust them, we trust you. And I was, again, the trust and the faith in my clients. I have all of them still. I didn't lose any clients. And except for that one that she was all about her when I was in hospital, but I didn't lose any of them. And that's what I did. And like I said, my business continued. It grew, obviously, because now I have staff or ICs.
And that's pretty rapid. I mean, literally an overnight change for you.
Literally overnight.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. So how did you tackle that problem? Because I know when people look they go, I'm trying to hire. This is going to be multi-steps. I've got to get some policies. I got some procedures. I got to get some things. I got some infrastructure set in place. How did you get all that together in such a rapid pace and then continue to have your business function at the same time?
Well, that's why I went to IC route, because you don't do all that with ICs. It was literally the decision. That was one of the biggest decisions. The other thing is my clientele are attorneys, doctors, all that. One of my clients is a labor and employment attorney. So I met with her, and she helped me do all that paperwork with the contracts and everything. And like I said, I'm very, very fortunate in who I chose as clients because they helped me with all of that. They said, okay, we can, draw this up. This is what you need to do. This is the right way of doing it. And I was very, very fortunate. I am very fortunate in that. And so they helped me with that. And then I contracted with those people and I said, okay, this is how we have to do it. And then I have my CPA and my bookkeeper. They took over that part of it because I can't see to do the numbers and everything with my vision. They took over all of that part of it. Basically, what I can do is work the phones. That is what I can do. I can talk on the phone. I could be the phone person. And so I communicate on the phones. And so I pretty much have to outsource everything. But it works. It works for me. And that is what happened pretty much overnight. And I was so fortunate in finding good people to help. It started with one IC to do all of it pretty much. And I met with my clients and I said, look, this is who I have doing sits right now. And then I contracted with another sitter and said, hey, can you do these sits? And she said, yep. And then now that sitter moved, and now I have another sitter that I contract with. So I have a few, like 2 or 3 sitters that I contract with. I'm very, very fortunate in that.
Yeah, to get everything set up and going. And I like how you said the future plan just went a lot faster, right? And you were able to do that. And again, this is where the importance of sitting down and getting something out there, something on a piece of paper, some idea and concept of what you'd like it to look like, so that when the opportunity or the necessity arises, you can accelerate or decelerate the advancement towards that appropriately.
And I found that I'll go back to score.org, and also RNAPS has that too. But score.org has that business plan on it.
Okay.
That's so just so you know, and the listeners know, score.org has that. So you can go onto that site. It's for small businesses. But you can go there. My local library also has it, but you can go onto score.org and they have it where you can just write it out. They also have webinars out there where you can watch them for your business plans.
Yeah, I think they've got like a template and resources section that you can go to and kind of plug in what you need or help make that roadmap. And again, that's
exactly.
It's interesting to think of the context of emergency and personal emergency planning and relating that back to a business plan. But what that is your roadmap, your understanding how you want your business to structure and function over time, and then going, okay, this is how I want things to look. It's kind of like how doctors go, okay, this is how the body is supposed to function.
Right.
Now, what do I do when this is broken? Or what does it mean that this isn't working? Because you can always relate back to the ideal and go, how do we get it back to that? Whether that's bringing in help, whether that's accelerating something or changing the whole structure entirely.
It's almost like when you think about you have a budget for your business. It's a forecast for your business. You have to keep a goal in mind. You have to have a set way of doing things.
Yeah.
So as important as my budget is for my business, that is very important for my business.
A lot of pet owners don't know how to react when their beloved pet is facing a bout of anxiety, noise sensitivity, or even depression. However, various studies have shown that animals react very positively when calming music is played for them. As a trusted pet sitter, have your clients check out Peaceful Pet Music, Calm Music for Pets on YouTube, where they can give their pet the best chance at relaxing while they're away. From peaceful melodies to soothing nature sounds, this YouTube channel is the go-to spot when your client's pet is anxious and you don't know where to turn. Complete with beautiful and vibrant animations, their videos will become your home for the tools needed to keep the client's pet in a state of peacefulness. Be sure to subscribe to Peaceful Pet Music, Calm Music for Pets on YouTube, and hit that bell so you never miss a moment of music. Well, and you mentioned that you've taken on the role of phones and coordinating throughout the business. Amy, in what other ways have you had to adapt and change since your stroke, and how that's impacted what you can do in the business?
I don't want to say I'm limited, but I'm limited. So I can't do sits anymore because I can't drive.
Yeah.
So I miss that tremendously. I miss it tremendously, because that's why I got into pet sitting, is to go and live on the animals. So I'm on the phone with the clients. I'm talking with the clients. That's the biggest thing. I'm walking them through how to do the system or pet sitting software, and talking to them about their animals. I do that mostly because they'll call in and talk to me about it. I don't do the sits, which kills me. Every once in a while, I'll ask one of my sitters to pick me up so I can go to homes and stuff, especially my originals. Those my OGs. Every once in a while I'll go and I have clients that go to, like right now I have a client going to Egypt, and they go in there for 2 or 3 weeks. and they ask if I can go and stay at their house, for a day, every few days, and just hang out there. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I am definitely going to go and do that because I don't get out of my house to love on my babies, So it has limited me in that way. But I can talk on the phone, talk to my clients. I have that very personal relationship. I'm not rushed during the day, but I am in the office talking to clients. So I have that personal relationship with them.
Yeah, you can really lean into that. And, I know that's something that you valued in the beginning as well. And so going, okay, this is a bucket that I can fill and pour everything into right now and make sure that my business is working for me.
Yes, and when they call and do the original request for to be a client, I have that time to really fill them out and see if they're going to be a good client. So I'm more of a one-on-one person versus a just go online and fill this information out, that kind of thing. So I have that more of an ability to have a communication with them. On the phone. I answer the phone. When they call, I answer the phone. You're not going to get the voicemail or anything like that. I'm able to do that. I'm lucky in that aspect, but that's the way my business is. I'm not on the road all the time, so I'm not at a client's house and can't answer the phone. I'm fortunate in that aspect.
Well, it's an aspect that many of us wish we could devote more time to as well, going, I really wish I could invest more in my client experience, my customer experience, my onboarding, that customer relationships, building and nurturing that, and recognizing that you have an opportunity to make that a stellar feature, right, of your company.
Right. Yeah. And exactly. At least I have I feel like at least I have something to do, because that's the way I have changed my business to keep it going.
I know we've talked a little bit about the importance of the business plan and planning and stuff, but for a solopreneur, a solo sitter, what are some things that they need to be considering, or maybe just a business in general, when they sit down to look at a business plan and emergency planning? What are some tips that you would give them to get them started off on the right foot with putting that plan together?
Definitely do it. You need to do it. You need to think about it. You need to, like we talked about, get backups, even if they're not pet sitters. I call it my knock on wood policy. If you have it, hopefully you won't need it. I do what I call my knock on with clients. I have them give me their emergency backup plan. The plumbing issue. I always call it my plumbing issue. Tell me where your water cutoff is. Tell me where your electrical box is. Because if I have it, I could turn off the water. I'm not a plumber. You can have your emergency person come and wait for the plumber, clean up the water, that kind of thing. I could take care of your animals. I could take care of the emergencies with the animals, but I can't do the plumbing, that kind of thing, so my knock on wood is, tell me where your water cutoff is. I could mitigate that part of it, mitigate the future damage to it, but I'm not the plumber that can go and fix your pipes. So at least work on that part of it. You need to at least think about it and work on it, because if you don't, then you're going to be stuck, say like a chicken with your head cut off, but running around trying to figure that part out. And that's not fun. That is not fun.
No, yeah, and I think just like finding those categories of what your concerns are, of going, okay, personally, what could be an issue here? Client dog or client pet, right? Then client home or natural disaster. Like and every area is different with what they're facing and how, like you mentioned earlier, how you run your business, what you're actually doing, how you're actually performing the visits. That's why all this is so unique. And just going, for me, how would I solve this? And if you don't have an answer, right, getting connected with some really good resources and talking to other sitters to see how they've approached it.
Right.
Yeah.
And where I am, I'm so fortunate in the what I have surrounding me. As far as we have LSU veterinary school, so I have a lot of that to utilize as my emergency place to go for animals. I have just a lot to use in my area. So more of my concerns in here are the homes and, to mitigate the issues that we have in clients' homes. So that is more of our problem areas. So the natural disasters and all that kind of stuff are our issues that we have here.
Well, and that's a good point too, Amy, of recognizing what are my resources that I have access to, right? Because that's going to help go. And that may be for personally. That's going okay. A resource for me is my car insurance, or if I have health insurance, those are resources in an emergency, or my connection to a local vet or a boarding facility. Those are resources, and that way you can see, okay, what do I have already? And then what do I need to backfill here and find out? Maybe that could be more training, that could be different equipment, or that could be making a few phone calls to some people in the area to get connected with them to help you in those situations.
Definitely. My biggest, what I had found that we had a really bad hurricane a couple of years ago, what I had found that we did not have here, actually, in New Orleans, they all evacuate during bad hurricanes, and we were getting a lot of the evacuation people. And I answer my phone. I just answer my phone because I never know if it's a client or who it is that's calling. And I found that I was just getting a lot of phone call from people that did not know the area, did not know what they can do, with their animals, that kind of thing. So I was a resource for people who did not know, what they can do with their animals, where they can board them, who was taking. Well, I have a lot of resources here that I call for my animals in the event, that I was saying that so I was calling them and saying, hey, are you still taking in animals? Do you still have? And they were like, yeah, we're still taking them in. So I was able to give contacts, saying, hey, they're still open. They can take your animals. So, when you're a resource for other places, it helps. It helps. And those, it might not be a client of mine, but at least I'm helping somebody with an animal that, they can't keep their animals in a home where there's, 20 people staying in there because there's no place else for them to go. They need to put their animal someplace, and now they have a place to put their animal. So, it's not a self-serving thing, but it's more of a resource thing. And that's fine for me.
Well, in emergencies and disasters, whether personal or business or natural disasters, being a resource to the community, right, is something that we can do. And I know you from your experience with the local fire department, like that's a big aspect of that. Going, well, this needs to get done. I can help. Here's how I can contribute in whatever way that looks like for us.
Exactly. And not to say that there's not days that I don't answer my phone because, the time right before a holiday when everybody's last minute trying to find a pet sitter, that, that's not the time to answer your phone. Clients, is one thing, but, when people are last minute, that's not emergency basis for me. Yeah. Disasters, emergencies, those kind of things. So
early on in our conversation, Amy, you talked about your involvement with NAPS, National Association of Professional Pet Sitters, and you recently became president of NAPS.
Yes.
And I was curious why you decided that was important to you and something that you needed to do.
So, like I said, when I first started, I was looking for information on how to be a pet sitter, all of that. And I came across NAPS, and I liked it because it's pet sitter run. It's a member run organization by pet sitters, and that's what I wanted to be. And that's where I asked, hey, is there information out there? I utilized all the tools that we had. Now because before it was a they. And when I first started, I got a phone call from a member asking me, hey, do you have everything you need? Do you have any questions? And I thought that was really cool. I was like, okay, I'm being asked information. And it turns out that phone call was from the president at the time, Yvette Gonzalez. I don't know if you know Yvette, but you probably met her at the conference.
Yeah.
And she, and I was like, we had a really good conversation. And I was like, well, that was pretty cool. And she was on the membership committee at the time. And they call new members. And I was like, well, that was really cool. This is a great organization. And go forward, I think it was 5-6 years later, I am now, in the office because I could talk on the phone. And I decided to join a committee. And I do volunteer work. You know that. I'm a volunteer person. I give back. So I joined at the time, then the membership committee. I was like, I can call and talk to members, new members, just like Yvette called me. And so I called new members and talked to them and said, hey, do you need anything? You have any questions about naps, that kind of thing. So I did at the time do what Yvette did to me. And so that was cool. And we have monthly webinars explaining, having people come in, talk about what membership would, are interested in. Like I said, there was a webinar about how to choose a good client, which, like I said, to this day, I still watch. It was a great webinar. We have vets come on, talk about, ways to kind of get an idea about behavioral aspects on animals, exotics, all that kind of thing. Kittens, just a variety of things to learn about. And so I just loved that. And so I just joined a committee. And as I belonged to the organization more and more, I just then said, hey, maybe I need to give it even more out. So then I joined and became I moved up, joined the board, and then from there became secretary treasurer, and then eventually this year became the president. So that's how that worked.
Finding ways to give back, right? Is
Exactly.
what I hear about that, Amy. Is going, here's my experience. This is what I've gotten from help from people. What way can I give back? And that all circles back to being that resource in the community, whether that's your local community with pet parents or the community of pet sitters and other pet professionals, in some way of going, what resources, what tools, knowledge do I have, and how can I give back in that capacity?
Exactly. I learned from other pet sitters when I started 10 years ago, and I've learned a lot from, 10 years. So why not start and help other pet sitters who are starting out now? Cause like I said, it's pet sitter run, that's what I love about it.
Listening to your story, starting the business after burnout from legal and accounting and running your business, when you having the stroke and continuing to operate a business that looks completely different, and as you've said, like even doing some things that it's like, well, this is how I can do this, and pursuing the being the president of NAPS. I am curious, did you ever think about stopping the business and not pushing forward with those goals and things that you wanted to do, and just go, well, that's not, I've got to check that off my list, I need to find something else?
No, I did a lot of therapy.
Okay.
Therapy helps. I see two therapists. One is for my stroke, and one is the therapist I've been seeing forever. So I just, like I said, there's new challenges with that. I went through training for blindness. And so I learned how to adapt with my vision, which was very helpful. So I use a cane when I'm out in areas that I'm not familiar with, and I have different techniques now that I learned. So once I gathered different ways of adapting to things, I think that has helped. There are certain things that I cannot do, and I will tell people I cannot do that, and that's very important to do. you know, I've in learning, working for my prior career, I've learned that I max out. And when you learn that, hey, there's certain things I cannot do, it's beyond me now. And you have to find ways for help or to know when, okay, that's too much.
Yeah.
And to ask for help or to say, look, I've got to find another way of doing this. And I do that even with naps. We have a board. We have a board of directors that are all pet sitters, and you probably met most of them at the conference. We divide and conquer. We use our strengths, and the entire board, works together. And you know your limits, and that's what I do. I know my limits now. That's all you can do. I can't max out, so what else can you do?
Well, you lean on your strengths, and I think having those good people around you is really what makes that difference of going, this is what I can do. This is how I can contribute. And we all do that in our own lives, right? Just think about in our business going, well, I'm not the best with like bookkeeping and numbers, so I'm going to find a CPA to do that. That's not my strength. I don't want to do that. So we look at both the need, the ability and the necessity to make those changes in our business to make sure it's working for us.
Right. We do blogs. So NAPS does blogs like every week, I think, on our thing. I can't read those. I have a limited vision for reading things, and I use a machine to help me read. I'm like, no, that's too much for me. So that goes to a committee, that goes to a marketing committee to read and review. So I know my limits.
Well, Amy, I want to thank you for spending your time today talking with us about your journey in pet care and encouraging us to get that emergency plan, because we never know what's going to happen. And just starting with something is the biggest thing that we can do. And for sharing about NAPS and your role with that. But there's a lot that both NAPS does and that you do. So how can people learn more about NAPS and get connected with you if they want to learn more?
Sure. So NAPS is petsitters.org, and a lot of information out there. And I definitely suggest people go out there and look at it. If you have any questions on that, you could just email naps@petsitters.org, and that information can be responded to easily. For me, you can reach me at amy@furkidsitters.com. My website is furkidsitters.com.
And I will have links to everything that we've talked about in the show notes, including to score.org, so that people can get that and start checking out all those links and resources. Amy, I'm so thankful for time to get to talk with you today and everything that you've learned. And I have some things that I have to do for my emergency preparedness list now, so I appreciate that. So thank you so much for coming on, Amy.
Sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Many of us may be scared away of implementing or trying to sit down and plan out a business plan. But the power comes in is that it is a plan you have on a shelf for this is where I want to be, this is how I want to be operating, and this is what that would look like and how I would make that work. This isn't just so that we can meet our milestones or that we can know how to progress from our business plan to business plan, while that is also important. It's also a great way when emergencies strike to move or shuffle back or rearrange our thought processes for what we thought our businesses would look like. It makes us project and forecast into the future for possible outcomes. It makes us look at the landscape of obstacles in our way for running our business and make sure we have accounted for them appropriately. When we are forward-thinking enough to implement these kinds of plans, we are setting ourselves and our businesses up for success. We want to thank today's sponsors, Time to Pet and Peaceful Music, Calm Music for Pets YouTube channel. We want to thank you so much for listening and contributing and being part of this community. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll be back again soon.